Hi everyone. Welcome to the training for Main Street Church volunteers. My name is Renee and I'm one of the pastors at Main Street, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you that contributes to our mission through volunteering. You're amazing. We're so thankful for you. It's you, the volunteers, that are creating amazing ministries and fostering wonderful relationships where significant things are happening for God. Thank you. Thank you for investing in people. It's our dream, our desire, that as each and every one of us invests in people, we would see them transformed by Jesus, wanting to walk more and more in the ways of Jesus, and overflowing in their own lives with the love of Jesus. And so thank you for being a volunteer here at Main Street. Today, our training will help us as volunteers think about the ways we can create environments that allow life change to happen, safe and caring environments. Today, there are so many ways for people to get a snapshot of what the church is all about. Think of all the sources where people could find out about Main Street Church. Talking to a friend from Facebook and Twitter or somewhere online, from their kids that are invited by a friend, or a youth that's invited by a friend, from driving by, or from one of our staff, or someone that is part of our community here. There's so many ways for people to get a snapshot of what our church is all about. And I wonder what snapshot they're getting. And you are a leader in our church. You are such an important part of the snapshot of church people will get. So think about the snapshot people are getting from all these sources. What picture do you think they're getting? You know, increasingly, we're told that it's children and youth that are encouraging their parents, encouraging the older generation to check out a faith community. And so I can't help but wonder, when a child comes here on a Sunday for the first time, or experiences one of our faith communities, or a youth checks out one of our fun events and then reports back to their parents, their teachers, their friends, their world about the snapshot they got after checking out Main Street, what words do they use? What words do you, as a volunteer, as a leader at Main Street, want those folks to use? Oh, I'd love it if they used words like, I knew they cared about me. They knew my name. They were interested in me. I was welcomed and included. I was valued. I had fun. I was respected. You, as a volunteer, are a leader in our community. It's your job. We're entrusting you to help us do the best we can to create environments and create relationships in all of our ministries that allow those words to be true. We're counting on you, the volunteers, to make the kind of environments where these positive connections are made. An environment where God can begin His life-changing work in someone's life. This training you're about to go through discusses some of the things we've agreed to do as Main Street Church, as a community, to do our best at creating these safe, these welcoming, these life-changing environments for those in our community. We're thinking particularly today of those in the vulnerable sector, children and youth under 18, and the disabled or elderly. We're asking you to agree as a volunteer to do your best to help us create these environments by agreeing with these things we'll share today. So please take your time and even take some notes as we go through things together today. As we start, imagine that you and your family, or you and your closest friends, were about to go on a road trip. Say the road trip was going to be in February and was going to be from St. John, New Brunswick to Ottawa, Ontario. What kind of things would you do and plan in advance of the trip to try to make sure it was a smooth trip? You'd probably check the weather forecast. You'd check you have winter tires on the car and the car is in good repair and all your fluids are topped up. You might check where some gas stations are along the way. You'd probably tell some people when you're leaving and when you expect to arrive. You'd plan some stops, and particularly any overnight stops. You'd plan some food or meals. You'd dream up some entertainment along the way so that everyone's happy in the vehicle. There's a number of things that you do before a road trip to make for a safer and smoother trip. Now, there are no guarantees. You could still end up with a flat tire on the side of the road, but you've tried to make sure for a smooth trip. It's the same sort of thing we're asking you as a volunteer leader at Main Street. We're asking you to think in the same way about your ministry, about our community. How can you plan ahead to try to make the trip safer, to try to make your ministry safer, and the kind of environment you want for life change to happen? We're inviting you to do the thinking behind the scenes. The aim of our volunteer handbook is that everyone Main Street Church is in contact with would be treated with great worth. We know that our God and our Father treats everyone with great value, and we want to be the kind of people that do the same thing. And that's the aim of this agreement that we're entering into as volunteers in the Volunteer Handbook. You can get your own copy of the Volunteer Handbook in the filing cabinet outside the main offices at Main Street Church. Also in that filing cabinet, you'll find any of the forms or documentation we talk about today. Things like permission slips, volunteer application forms, letters to get your criminal record check done. All those things are available to you in that cabinet outside the offices. So take time to take a look through your volunteer ministry handbook. Take a look at the index and read the sections that are particularly relevant to your ministry area. Together we've come up with a plan to do our best to ensure our environments are safe and caring environments. So here's some things you just need to highlight that you need to know that are part of our street. First, why do we have what we call a protection plan? Well, it allows us to assure families in our community that we're trying our best to make this a safer environment, a respectful environment, and a loving place. This plan also protects us, the volunteers, against any false accusations, that we can protect ourselves as volunteers, saying we're doing our very best to create caring environments. This plan also allows us to know how to respond if a situation of abuse is ever revealed to us. So that's why here's some things you need to know that are specifics in our plan for protecting you as a volunteer and protecting the children and youth and vulnerable in our care. The first is that we ask any new volunteers to complete what's called a volunteer application form. This volunteer application form is part of our screening process, and the forms are available in that cabinet outside the offices or from any of the staff. This volunteer form is just an opportunity for us to get to know you, you to get to know us. Usually we sit down and fill it out over coffee, and it allows us to help you figure out where you best fit in contributing in our community. So we hope that it's actually an inviting process where you get to know us and we get to know you. We also have what's called a 6-month rule. What this means is we invite you, if you're new to Main Street, to take your time, to take at least 6 months to get to know our community, to get to know the different ministries we have, to check out the different ministries we have and see where you might like to get involved, and to use this time to prayerfully seek God about where you might become a part of serving around Main Street. We also ask every volunteer who works with children or youth around Main Street to complete a criminal record check every 3 years. A criminal record check is done at your local police station. It costs a small amount of money, but the church is more than willing to cover that if that's a struggle for you and your family right now. You're to take in 2 pieces of photo ID, a letter from that church that's available again in that filing cabinet outside the offices, or from your ministry leader. And you take these things into your local police department and they'll give you a letter back. And when you get the letter back, you just bring it into the church office and we file it away in a locked cabinet and that only the associate pastor sees. Just a warning that if you happen to have the same birthday and gender of someone that's been that committed a crime against youth or children, you could be asked to be fingerprinted. This is happening more and more, and it doesn't mean that you've been accused of anything. It's just that they've tightened up their screening process at the police station. So this just allows us to continue to try to do our best to keep our environment safe. We also ask that any programs with children or youth have a minimum of 2 leaders in any room, so that there's always 2 adults there, 2 sets of eyes, 2 sets of ears to be a part of things. We ask you to familiarize yourself with our washroom policies and our plan for children in grade 2 and under. You'll notice that all our classrooms around Main Street have unobstructed windows. These are on purpose so parents and other leaders can easily see into the rooms and you can see out. So please don't cover the windows with posters or other things. It's so wonderful that we've got ministry teams and volunteers that do special events with our children and youth off-site, and we're so glad that these are happening. But anytime you or ministry wants to do these sorts of events, we require that you use a consent form so that parents are fully aware of everything that's going on and give their permission for their child to participate. And again, these forms are available from the office or in the cabinet outside the offices. Also, anytime we are billeting children or youth, the billets also have to complete a criminal record check and what we call a billet form. In the event of any allegation of abuse, it will be reported immediately to a pastor in the Department of Social Development and or police. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later. Don't let this scare you. It's just to let you know that we've already thought through that if the situation should arise, we have a plan about how to respond. Because we care so much about creating caring environments where everybody is known, we ask that we keep the ratio of a leader to children or a leader to youth to be 1 leader per 5. Just some other notes on washroom safety, particularly in the nursery. Diaper changing must take place in such a way that another nursery worker can easily see the child that is being changed. And children must be 12 years or older and have had training before they change a child's diaper. Washroom safety. For those that are working with preschool children up to grade 2, we ask you to escort them to the washroom and just prop the door from outside open just to make sure it's safe, and let the child go in and do their business and just wait for them outside and then escort them back. When a child does need assistance in the washroom, an adult may enter the cubicle to assist when there's another adult close by. And so just to inform another adult adult volunteer when this is the situation. Also, this is something given to us from other experts. Female volunteers may assist male or female children to the washroom, but male volunteers may only assist male children to the Bottom line is volunteers watch out for each other. So as a volunteer at Main Street, we're asking you to look out for the other volunteers around you. I've got your back and you've got mine. We're in this together to create a safe, life-changing environment for all the people we meet. We're in this together to create environments where Jesus can do his amazing work. So volunteers watch out for each other. We can also be our own worst enemies, starting to bend the rules or make exceptions. We're asking you not to do this. We're asking you to be entrusted with this responsibility to make sure we're creating safe and caring environments. For those that are leading with our youth, we encourage you, as you know, to take some time to get to know the students on Facebook or outside of the youth nights. But there's some special precautions around this. Always meet in a public place or in the church building when others are in clear view. Always let another adult volunteer know you are meeting and ask them to pray. Meet at the location. Don't pick up the youth and drive there together. Make sure you let the parents or guardians know, even just in a quick note or email saying, hey, by the way, your daughter and I, your son and I are meeting for coffee on Tuesday, or whatever the case may be. For one-on-ones, males meet with males and females meet with females. Just a reminder to be extra aware of your language and any physical touch in one-on-one situations. And understand confidentiality rules. Remind the student that you will keep conversation confidential, that you don't need to tell their parents unless they're going to cause harm to themselves or to somebody else. When we start talking about media boundaries, as volunteers and leaders at our church, we ask you to think about the image that you're presenting. Remember that Facebook and Twitter is public. When you're having a conversation with a youth, a student, or a child from your church community that you're a part of ministering to, save any sensitive conversations for your own protection. Make sure that you're asking parents or guardian permission for posting youth and children's pictures on Facebook or a website or in PowerPoint presentations. And a reminder, don't say anything to a child or a youth or that you wouldn't say face-to-face with another volunteer leader close by or your pastor right there. Just a reminder, watch where you place computers and internet access. Thinking too that from time to time we use these things in our ministries, and make sure we place them in areas where we can see what the children and the youth are up to and what our leaders are up to. And just a reminder, in your own life as a volunteer leader, model healthy use of media. We encourage you to continue to have unconnected times when you are separate from media. When children or students ask, hey, how come you're doing these things? Please be honest. You can tell them, I'm waiting for Amy or for another youth leader or adult to come with us on the drive home, because it's safer that way. Because we both want to spend time with you. Because our church plan says so. And you can blame it on me here, because Renee says so. Or how come I have to wait for Mom or Dad to pick me up from Sun City? Tell them, because there's a big crowd at church, because we want to keep you safe. Because it's so much fun up here and I could use your help. It helps that all of us are role modeling safety and the good. Some things around nurturing relationships. So we're so thankful that you want to create the kind of environments where relationships with children and youth can be fostered, relationships that will lead to life change through Jesus. So just some reminders that as you're nurturing relationships with children and youth, they're in a vulnerable time. So it's very appropriate to make sure you're bending down to the child's eye level, taking a young child's hand and leading him or her to an activity. Very appropriate to put an arm around a child that needs quieting or comforting, patting a child on the head or the hand or the shoulder or the back to affirm them, taking a child by the hand and say, way to go, you did a good job. They need these appropriate kinds of language and touch in their lives. But a reminder, and we know you know this, that there's also things that are very inappropriate. You should never kiss a child or coax them to kiss you, even a young child. This includes in our nursery. You should never hug or tickle a child that you're ministering to. The rule of thumb we use is that if a child runs to you or initiates a hug, by all means receive that hug. But you should never be initiating yourself. It's inappropriate to touch a child in any area that would be covered by a bathing suit. And we shouldn't be carrying older children. So once they're above, in grade 2 or above, we shouldn't be carrying them or having them sit. Some more on this. It's very appropriate to hold a young child by the shoulders or hand to keep his or her attention while you're trying to redirect their behavior. Again, you can initiate a hug in a public setting. Yes, you can hold a preschool child who is crying. That shows the love and care of Jesus. And it's also appropriate to tell a child when an action that they did was wrong. The child wasn't wrong. What they did was wrong. And boy, do our children and our youth need to hear encouraging words from you, words of affirmation. But please remember, it is inappropriate to be alone with a child or a youth. Any type of physical or corporal punishment is inappropriate, so you can't use the old, give me 10 push-ups now. And any words that put down or berate or intimidate a child should never be used. Just a reminder that care needs to be taken with sarcasm. Well, often as adults we use it as a way to include people and have a fun conversation. Our intention should never be to berate or insult. And also we must remember that children and youth aren't developed in their brain to the point where they can usually understand sarcasm. And so they don't pick up on our sarcasm. So just think about, and we're trusting you as leaders to think about the kind of relationships that you're nurturing with the children and youth that you minister to. We're asking you to be wise in these relationships. As an adult in the province of New Brunswick, you have a responsibility to report suspected abuse. So you're actually required to report your suspicions to the Department of Social Development immediately. And this is for children under the age of 16 and disabled children under the age of 19. If it's a youth between 16 and 19, it should be done with their consent. And what this means is if you hear or you see something that makes you suspect there's abuse going on in that person's life, then you pick up the phone and you call the Department of Social Development and you pass on that information. And I or one of the other staff can be there with you when you do that, but we encourage you to make the call. When we call social development, all we're doing is passing on the information. Our responsibility is to pass on the information. Department of Social Development decides what to do with that information. And when we call, we don't know if that's the first time that social development's heard anything about that youth or that child, or that we're the last piece in a puzzle to help them protect that child. That's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to pass on the information. So as a volunteer, be aware of some of the symptoms of abuse or neglect, and you can see these in your volunteer handbook on page 13. So the best thing you can do when someone starts disclosing to you a difficult situation, abuse going on in their lives, the best thing you can do is listen. Don't put words in their mouth or make suggestions about what you think has happened. Listen and invite them to tell you more. Make sure you're not jumping to conclusions, but listening and taking in all the information. And then you can pass on that information to a pastor or staff if you're not sure what to do with the information. And we'll help you know how to respond. Here's the bottom line. Jesus tells us that he's sending us out like sheep among wolves. Therefore be as wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Don't be stupid. We unfortunately live in a fallen, messed up world. But you are part of the chain of grace in this world. And so make sure that you're thinking ahead like you do for a road trip. Thinking how you can make this a safe and caring place for anyone that walks through our doors. And don't be stupid. Don't put yourself in a situation where later you could regret. We're asking you as a volunteer leader to make sure you know the location of our first aid kits around the church and know what to do if an incident occurs where a child or youth needs your care. Make sure you wear gloves when you're responding to an incident when there's blood involved. Also, anytime an injury occurs when a child or a student is under our care, please fill out what's called an incident report. Again, these are located in the filing cabinet outside the main offices. This just allows us to be well aware in our follow-up and let us know if we have to contact a parent or a family member. Or if a parent or family member should call us, we can pull out that report and tell them what happened or point them to the leaders that were there during that incident. Also, please make sure you're aware of a fire escape plan. Each classroom in our church has a map with stickers pointing to the best exit. Stay calm. We ask you to take the children in single file to the designated location. And our designated location is to meet outside the North End Community Center near the Victoria Street parking lot. One leader is to retrieve the registration for that ministry, for either the camp or the youth group or the Sun City, and take them to the meeting place. And one of the pastors will meet the fire truck, so don't worry about this. If children are in a separate area from their parents, again, please just take the children to our meeting place outside the North End Community Center. We'll be asking the parents to do this. Thank you so much. We mean it when we say our volunteers make us a church that overflows. It's because of you that we're known as a church that overflows with God's love. It's because of you, youth, kids, adults, seniors, seek out help and support from the people of Main Street. It's because of you that people feel welcome at Main Street. It's because of you we have so many environments where God's life change can happen. It's because of you we're seeing lives changed. Thank you. We really are so glad that you are part of the team. If you should have any questions, please contact us at the Main Street Church office and send us a note on email when you've completed this training. You can email me directly at renee@mainstreetbaptist.ca. That's Renee, R-E-N-E-E, at mainstreetbaptist, all one word, .ca. Thanks so much for taking the time to complete this training. And again, thank you for overflowing.